Hello and welcome to UELtras on Ranks FC, the show that's talked you through the Europa League and is now focusing on the final game in the Europa Conference League. Just two teams remain, obviously. This is the 10th and final episode of this season of UELtras. I'm Jack Collins. I'm here to look at that first ever Conference League final. What a game we have in store as Italian giants AS Roma face off against Dutch royalty Feyenoord of Rotterdam. Two differing paths to the final, but each from at least the qualifying stages of this competition. Remember, nobody starts in the group stages in the Europa Conference League. But let's start with Roma, who are the home team for all intents and purposes, at least administratively in this one. They actually disposed of the new Turkish champions Trabzonspor in their qualifier, beating them 5-1 on aggregate. And then they did top their group as well, although it took a couple of favours. The headline news in the group was a 6-1 loss away to Norwegian champions Bodo Glimt in a game that seemed to show the frailty of Mourinho's squad depth, but with Zoria Luhansk holding Glimt on the final day of the groups, Roma leapfrogged them into top spot in the group and avoided those playoffs against the Europa League sides, which could be absolutely crucial. As we know, they met Vitesse in the last 16 where they needed a last-minute Tammy Abraham goal in the second leg to see them through. He stole in to nod home as the away defence inexplicably switched off in injury time. Karsdorp got around the back, nodded it across, and Tammy bundled it in to send the Olympico into raptures. And in the quarters, they then came up against their group stage conquerors once again in the shape of Bodo Glimt. But despite another loss in Norway, a thumping 4-0 win in front of a packed Olympico was a performance that I think announced that Roma were fully committed to winning this competition. Nicolo Zaniolo got a hat-trick that night. He was absolutely unplayable, which is always a delight to see, given Zaniolo's injury problems over the past couple of years. Then they dealt with Leicester in the semi-finals to book their place in the showpiece, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. For Feyenoord, the journey started even earlier in the second qualifying round back in July, 10 months ago, almost to the day of the final. They eked past Minnows FC Drita of Kosovo before they then found a little bit of rhythm. They battered both Luzern of Switzerland and Elfsborg of Sweden to reach the group stages. They hit 6 across both of those legs against both of those teams. They haven't lost a game in the tournament proper either. They topped a tricky group, which also contained a resurgent Union Berlin and Slavia Prague, who have twice been Europa League quarterfinals in the past 3 seasons. But 4 wins, including back-to-back victories against the Germans and 2 draws, saw them win Group E at a relative canter, to be perfectly honest with you. Into the knockout stages then, and an 8-3 obliteration of Partizan got things going, including a 5-2 away win, which was, well, they were irresistible, to be perfectly honest with you. One of the best performances, I think, in the competition this season. They then outgunned Slavia again, 6-4 on aggregate, including an impressive 3-1 win on the road in the quarters. The first leg was 3-0. It was ping pong. It was chaos. They went from 2-0 down to 3-2 up. And then at one point, looked like they were going to win that game. And ultimately, at the end of it, their Slavia back heel forced it to 3-3. They went on the road to the Sonobo, incredibly difficult place to go. And Feyenoord saw off a 3-1 win. Cyril Dessers starred that day. We're going to be talking about him in some detail at the bottom of the show. But yeah, it was one of those performances you go, that's a very, very impressive one. And then they faced the mighty Marseille in the semi-finals, overcoming them to reach Tirana and the final. Let's start with Roma again. They won 2-1 over 2 legs against Leicester City, and 2 really impressive feats of rearguard action from Mourinho's Roma side. They nicked the lead at the King Power with Pellegrini slotting home after some brilliant work from Zalewski down the left. He's been a revelation this season, stepping in Spinazzola's absence. Obviously, Spinazzola has returned to the side now, but I think Zalewski has probably done enough to earn his spot in the final starting 11. He cut inside off his wing here, slid Pellegrini through, and he did the rest. Leicester had to go for it then in front of their own crowd, it's in front of their own fans, and it was a packed King Power. And they went for this kind of onslaught in the second half. But Roma only conceded once. Even that had a touch of fortune about it. Cross bounced off Gianluca Mancini and bundled into the net. Ademola Lookman claiming it. But ultimately, it was one of those where 1-1 felt like a win for Roma, and it felt like enough that they'd be able to get it done in the second leg. And so it proved at a sold-out Olympico. They ground out a 1-0 win thanks to a bullet Tammy header from a perfect Pellegrini corner in the first half, taking advantage of that Leicester weakness from set plays. Proved to be the only goal of the game. It was a masterclass in game management, to be honest, and I suppose that's what you learn to expect from a team managed by a man with a winning gene. that Jose Mourinho has. Coming across to final, they won 3-2 over 2 legs against Marseille. As we said, the first leg of this semi-final was a thriller at the Kite. They raced into a 2-0 lead Feyenoord before they were pegged back to 2-2 before the break. And after half-time, competition top scorer still Dessers nicks in to take advantage of a mix-up of the back straight from Marseille's kickoff, scored what proved to be the winning goal. There were chances for both teams. Alioreza Jahanbakhsh came off the bench for Feyenoord. He had a one-on-one in the last minute. 4-2. We would assume the game was beyond doubt. I think most people still thought Marseille were in with a good shout of reaching the final at 3-2 down after the first leg. But I think in the second leg, we were expecting more of the same. And to be honest, it was a thrilling end-to-end counter that only lacked one thing in goals. And to be honest, from a final perspective, that's fine. You have the lead. A game lacking goals is not a problem. And I think ultimately what we saw here was the fact that they do not lack for bottle or belief. In front of nearly 50,000 at the vociferous Velodrome, they held their nerve, even in the face of a Marseille team with swathes of attacking talent. This was a performance full of heart and character, and they more than earned their place in this final. There's always going to be talk about what the Conference League means in relation to other tournaments. But for Roma, this will be a first European trophy since the 1972 Anglo-Italian Cup and the first ever major piece of European silverware that the club will have ever lifted. So pretty massive from where I'm sitting. Then there's the Mourinho factor. Obviously, a Champions League winner with Porto and Inter, a Europa League winner with Manchester United. He will want to become the first manager to complete the set and the first manager to win the Conference League in its new incarnation. So there's that element of not only will Mourinho want to add another trophy and a new trophy to his cabinet, but also to become the first to be like, I won all three of them. And I think this is the thing with Mourinho. If he's in a tournament, he wants to win it. It doesn't matter what other people think of the caliber or of these tournaments. He spoke about them in general. He spoke about the Europa League with Manchester United and gave it, glowing terms. He's spoken about things like the Carabao Cup, the Community Shield. Things like this have always been part of Mourinho's repertoire. He wins trophies that he's part of. It doesn't matter how much esteem other people hold them in. He goes, if we're in a trophy, we're in it to win it. And I think we're seeing that from Roma in the latter stages of this competition. On the other hand, Feyenoord have a history of European successes. But the last time they lifted a trophy was the then UEFA Cup 20 years ago in 2002. They've won the European Cup, obviously now the Champions League in 1970. And they've got 2 UEFA Cup wins, obviously the Europa League now. And plus they have the Intercontinental Cup, which was a predecessor of the current Club World Cup. They could become the first club to complete the new set and have all 3 European trophies in their collection, which is a pretty cool thing to have. And I'm excited to see what Feyenoord do if that's the case. We saw Chelsea last year celebrating their completion of the set with the Club World Cup. Well, Feyenoord would be completing the new set and another trophy in that mix, which I think is a really intriguing one in terms of what that looks like. More than 100,000 fans set to descend on the city of Tirana for the game, which is pretty incredible given there are only 25,000 odd seats in the stadium and only 10,000 odd seats given to fans, which is a strange one. Look, these are 2 teams steeped in history and lore who command huge fan bases and serious pedigree. Feyenoord visited Rome in 2015, where there was a little bit of trouble, a couple of clashes between fans, but the early signs are and the early reports are that people are expecting the atmosphere in Tirana to be one of a carnival of football. We've seen the authorities in Albania already talking about the fact that they're excited to host this. They want it to be a roaring success. And I think that people are trying to buy into that concept that this is a really special occasion for 2 teams who feel that they can win the trophy. And I think that most people are expecting this to be a really kind of enjoyable occasion. Yes, there's going to be tension. Yes, there's going to be needle. It's a European final. You want those kind of things. But I do think that this is going to be quite a special, happy occasion. And especially given that it's in Tirana, they're hosting this. They want it to be a massive success. I think everyone's very excited to see things. Roma are the home team. They're expected to wear their kind of imperial red home shirts, while Feyenoord looks set to play in that grey-black away strip, which has served them so well in this competition so far. Couple of key battles then. Lorenzo Pellegrini versus Orkun Kokcu. It might seem incredibly obvious to pick out the 2 playmakers here, but I think there's every chance these 2 come up directly up against each other in the final. Pellegrini has alternated this season between playing as part of Mourinho's front 3, those 2 players slightly deeper than Tammy Abraham, and also in the midfield pivot. But I do think that Jose's cautious nature here pushes him further forward, especially given the fact that Henrik Mkhitaryan is injured, and it gives him the opportunity to play that more defensively sound, that big game pivot of Sergio Oliveira and Brian Cristante, which he used in the derby against Lazio. Is a thing he's gone back to time and time again, that big game experience in there, which I think gives Pellegrini the license to roam a little bit more. Now, Kirkju is a deep-lying playmaker, playing as part of a midfield three, but being tasked with progressing the ball quickly into the electric wide pairing of Sinisterra and Reece Nelson on loan from Arsenal to get them into the areas that they want to be in. And I think that, that is Kirkju's kind of role in this team. He looks up and he starts to get Feyenoord in transition, starts to get them into the areas they want to be high up the pitch. Those two players, Sinisterra in particular, who loves to play high and wide, will play on the edge and try and get in behind Roma's wing backs. And I think Kirkju is the man tasked with getting that ball to him as quickly as possible. So in that, I think there's every chance they end up playing in the same places on the pitch, which gives this a nice one-on-one feel to it. There's also the element that both are serious set piece threats, giving another dimension to this battle, because we're expecting a tight game here, or at least a game that isn't decided by huge amounts of goals. Even if there are plenty of goals in it, it feels like the kind of game that will be decided by a goal, maybe two on the break in the last minute. So set pieces could be absolutely vital, and these two are specialists in so many ways, not just in terms of direct free kicks, but also in terms of delivering from corners, in terms of swinging balls in. These are the two men going to be asked for that, and also there's that element of them both being academy products of their respective side, the heart and soul of their teams in the middle of the park. At the top ends of these teams is Tammy Abraham and Cyril Dessers. These are the competition's two top scorers. And the two top scorers facing off in the final isn't particularly new, but it does feel like the player who wins that personal golden boot duel may well be the one lifting the trophy as well. Tammy's had a remarkable season in Rome, notching 27 goals in all competitions, including 9 in the Conference League so far. Been fully taken to the hearts of the Roma faithful, I think, and is loved unrelentingly by this fan base. It was a massive gamble, I think many people thought, to leave England, but this gamble's firmly paying off from what we've seen so far. He's capable of scoring all types of goals. He's strong in the air. He's good in behind. He's a good dribbler of the ball. He can make things happen on his own. His threat is going to be absolutely crucial if Roma are to break that European trophy duck. Feyenoord boasts the only man, though, to have outscored him in the competition so far in Cyril Dessers. Cyril, the conference cannon, the first ever Europa Conference League specialist, notching 10 goals across the tournament so far. The fact he's not a guaranteed league starter for Feyenoord makes that feat even more impressive for me. But he is a complete forward threat, Dessers. He's comfortable holding the ball up. He's comfortable spinning in behind. He's capable of scoring with both feet and with his head. He's become a major asset because of his versatility, I think, in this forward role. Both are going to want to crown a captivating conference campaign with the winning goals in Tirana, which all points to a fascinating duel between the two top marksmen in this competition. Let's finish with a prediction then. And ultimately, this is a game where most people, I think, are expecting Feyenoord to try and dominate the ball. Arne Slot's kind of managerial style is one which would traditionally be described as more progressive. He likes to have the ball and likes to, work with it. But there's also this element that Feyenoord have in terms of getting in transition and getting the ball out wide to Sinisterra and Nelson, as we spoke about earlier on. It's an interesting one because Mourinho plays more transitionally. We know that, and we know how direct and vertical this Roma side can be. Is get the ball into that front three and let them cause the damage, because they are capable of causing such damage. So it's going to be really intriguing to watch how the tactical element of this matchup plays out. I would expect Feyenoord to have the ball to begin with, but expect that maybe to change as the game progresses, because how quick they have been in those transitional phases has been so impressive. And they did start really fast against Marseille as well. I wonder if they're going to look to kind of come out of the blocks flying in the same way that they did in that game. I do think the Roma edged this. There's something about the fact that despite Feyenoord having the extra week to prepare, we saw Roma play at the weekend, a massive win, 3-0 on Friday night. They got that early game against Torino. I think a lot of people were expecting a huge rotation. We didn't see that much rotation from Mourinho. What we did see was Tammy Abraham back in the goals. He then, on the hat-trick, passes the ball to Lorenzo Pellegrini for a penalty instead of completing that hat-trick. There is a real camaraderie and spirit amongst this Roma team, and I think that is just about enough to get them over the line in this final. Thank you so much for watching this Europa Conference League final preview on UELtras. Thank you so much for watching UELtras this season. This is going to be the 10th and final episode, as we said at the start, but we'll be back next season to talk all things Europa League and Conference League right from the start of the qualifying phases, which is in about a month. So it's not going to be too long before we're back on UELtras for another season. Please do hit that like and subscribe button and share this with any of your friends who you might think are interested in looking at the nuances of this battle between Roma and Feyenoord. I am literally about to go and get on a plane to Tirana, so I'm going to leave it there. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.